Our national anthem represents the beauty, pride, strength and resilience of Jamaica and our people. My name is Ziggy Marley. Please stand while we honor Jamaica, our culture and our history.
The most beautiful anthem in the world. That particular rhythm always makes me want to do a little dinky mini, but then I have to keep myself together. Chairman of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, BCJ, Professor Lloyd Waller. Commissioners of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission, Mr. Cordell Green. Chairman of the Barbados Broadcasting Authority, Dr. the Honorable Alison Leacock. President of the ATSC, Mrs. Madeline Noland. Staff of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, our speakers, panelists, members of the media, specially invited guests all. Good morning and welcome to the 40th Anniversary Conference of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. Good morning again all, and welcome to the 40th Anniversary Conference of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. I invited to my little, birthday celebration, and you're going to give me a little dibby, finke, pian. No. And if we understand the work that the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica has done over the years, there's a lot to give God thanks for, and there's a lot that we have to celebrate. Now, I will tell you how humbled I was. I grew up in the 80s, and because of the integration and the work that I have seen the BCJ do, I always felt protected, of course, by BCJ, only to realize, because I thought, surely the BCJ has to be at least 50, 60, 70 years old, only to realize that I am in fact older than the BCJ. But it's good. All good things take their time, and for 4 decades, the BCJ has not just been here for guiding digital transformation and safeguarding public interest, but when it comes to media regulation and governance, it has also been there. Now, yes, this is a lot of things that we have to celebrate, and we have to say they've done a great job, but it really wouldn't be BCJ if they didn't take this opportunity for us to have really sensible and instructive conversations. We just saw the devastation done by Hurricane Melissa, so we have really hard questions that we need to answer, and we have some fantastic panelists who will help us to answer those questions. For those of you who do not know me, I am Terry Carroll, and I have been given the task of serving you in the capacity of host. Now, I also know that the World Cup is taking place. I also know that there are two matches that will be overlapping while we are at this 40th anniversary. I also do know that many of us have our subscriptions to One Spot Media and to other platforms. Let me just let you know right now that I will be keeping my eyes on you. And if I see any particular enthusiasm going on while we are speaking about the horizon of traditional broadcasting, I will know you are probably watching the Ecuador versus Germany match, or you are watching the Cote d'Ivoire versus Curacao. But nobody in here is going to be watching the World Cup while we're at the 40th anniversary, correct? Thank you for being here. Thank you for carving out your morning. We just want to remind us, even though we don't need to be reminded, that this complex world has become shaped more and more by misinformation, disinformation, digitally manipulated content, and declining confidence in institutions. So today, we want to have conversations around sector resilience, around supporting digital transformation and modernization. We want to look at what does sustainability within the broadcasting industry look like. And lastly, we want to ask those very hard questions. But before we do all of that, we would love to welcome our first speaker, our welcoming remarks, and the person who will deliver that is Professor Lloyd Waller, BCJ Chairman. Could you kindly make him welcome?
My apologies for being late today. I almost also caused Cordial to have a small heart attack. Well, hopefully not. You know, he called me, "Where are you?" Oh, he called me. He said, "Chairman, where are you?" I said, "I'm almost into Montego Bay." Where is it again? The convention center? Convention center. And, you know, he giggled, and I giggled, and I said that it was a joke. But the truth is, I got an opportunity to take a bad situation and turn it into a good situation, because that story is true of a different circumstance. So, you know, I'm always telling my students, no matter how bad things are, somewhere, somehow, eventually, you can put a little good out of it. Every occasion for the last 5 years since COVID, I've had the opportunity to stand here at various BCJ engagements, and I've said the same thing over and over and over, and it starts with the world has changed. And then I would go into some examples of the change, you know, kind of like a little warning to say, you know, look around at your environment. I don't necessarily need to say that now today. I think we're all on that page. Every year I look forward to engaging students as research assistants. You know, every July I would interview 15, 20 students, and would select 3 students, 4 students who would work in the capacity as a kind of understudy under one of my research assistants. You know, it has benefited them significantly, to be quite frank. I think 100% of them have gone on to do their PhD and are working in research firms or academic institutions. But I have an existential dilemma this year, because this year I taught myself to use Claude bots, which are Claude agents. And I created a Claude agent who I call a research assistant, who can actually do everything that my research assistants can do, minus the attitude. I don't mind the attitude, to be quite frank. So existentially now, I am in a situation where I have something that is better by my standards, more efficient by my standards, but there's a moral dilemma now. If I decide to use these Claude bots as my research assistant, how do I now add value to the evolution of humanity? And we are in that particular space right now. Whenever I would say the world has changed, it has a lot to do with some additional insights that I think I would have more so than a lot of other people, but not necessarily for anything other than the fact that I'm a sociologist. And other than the fact that I've studied social change, and other than the fact that I've written an entire book on social change and technology and the evolution of technology. And I'm looking at this space, the media space, and I'm also recognizing that there has been a fundamental shift. I mean, when you see someone with a Ring camera and a YouTube account in one night has more followers than someone who, an entire media station, you know, it's a clear indication that there's a paradigm shift. Now, in such a shift, what do? We at the BCJ for the last 5 years have also been active in terms of highlighting and drawing attention to the shift in the ecosystem. Cordial, to be quite frank, either knowingly or unknowingly, or as my mother would love to say, either by design or by happenstance, has been rolling out a number of initiatives and projects in the last 5 years under the BCJ, written articles, you know, about how the ecosystem has changed, and in an attempt to raise awareness about what is happening and what needs to happen. So we're now at this particular juncture, to be quite frank, where information or data will need to be the key. To be quite frank, when I looked at TikTok and I also looked at the radio stations, the first thing I had asked myself, and I said it to Cardell at one stage, why is it that the radio stations and the TV stations not collecting this particular content or creating a local competitor to TikTok? Because there's a high demand for Jamaican content outside of Jamaica. So why are you giving TikTok the opportunity to generate this great wealth of the Jamaicans? Why don't you create a local TikTok and you capture and incentivize the, and by the way, if you use the idea, remember, I was the one who recommended it. And you know, I have some good friends who are lawyers, so I'm saying it publicly. This is my intellectual property that I'm making a recommendation, but it's true. You could have created a local TikTok to rival TikTok, to be quite frank. When you see the explosion of the use of TikTok as a communication mechanism, as an information sharing medium, as a communication benchmark, you know, even right now, research in terms of looking at how people use different products. You know, bots are using TikTok to collect data, just to show you how powerful this source is. I've done some work with TikTok, and I can tell you, it is a money-making machine, an absolute money-making machine, and it's very unfortunate that they have the opportunity to capture and manipulate the culture of countries around the world, when we have the opportunity here to do that kind of transition as broadcasters. You know, we need to start to think outside of the box. We need to destroy the box, because the world has changed in a way in which it is unimaginable to think about the things that you can do today. So staying in that small, insignificant imagination of what you think you were works against you in a world in which possibilities are endless. So the first time in human history, anyone in here has the opportunity to have a conversation with an AI, and out of that conversation create an application that they can sell to 1 million people, where you have 1 million persons subscribing $1 a month for that application. True story. Less than a month. You know, the opportunities are just there, and I always, as someone who studies technology, I'm always concerned about small island developing states being latecomers. In this particular instance, my friends, being a latecomer works against us, because the technology is moving rapidly, the things are changing, so we have to jump and capitalize. And I hope that today's opportunity to engage with the specialists and the conversations that we're having, and we've curated what I think is represents the critical issues that are emerging for the next 5 years. So it was meant for you as broadcasters to be in here to learn and to share and to have a conversation, and I hope we do that today. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Since 1986, the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica has helped shape the nation's media landscape, setting standards, guiding responsible broadcasting, and serving the public interest. From the era of traditional radio, free-to-air television, and subscription television, to today's rapidly evolving media environment, we have remained a steady voice for public trust, digital, media, and information literacy. Distinguished leaders from academia, law, public service, and civil society have helped to shape a legacy of stewardship and vision. Behind this work is a dedicated secretariat that continues to transform policy into meaningful action every day. We are committed to educating, empowering, and preparing Jamaicans for a rapidly changing media environment.
The Broadcasting Commission and UNESCO are started a project which the Mona School of Business and Management and Slash Roots have been working on since the start of this year, looking at all the different facets of this problem. And we've created a model, and we're working on an implementation pathway right now.
After Hurricane Melissa, we thought it was very important to look at the impact of the storm on media institutions. We worked very closely with the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica to do a survey and try to assess for the first time this very impact. It has been found to be enormous.
What you do is important. So we need to ensure that you are on the air before the hurricane, during the hurricane, and very quickly after the hurricane. So we are taking a specific interest in the impact of the hurricane on your studios and your transmission facilities.
Through firm and fair regulation, we have helped raise broadcasting standards and strengthen trust in Jamaica's media landscape. We are spearheading Jamaica's transitioning from analog to digital broadcasting. Jamaica has made history by being the third country in the world to adopt a digital service using NextGen TV, and the first country to move from analog to this most advanced standard. Through it all, we are rooted in service. As media has expanded beyond traditional broadcasting, we have also become an important voice in national conversations around digital, media and information literacy, artificial intelligence, information accessibility, and the responsible use of media. And we continue to help Jamaica prepare for what comes next. In a rapidly changing media environment, the need for trusted guidance has never been greater.
AI is now the new general purpose technology transforming lives around the world, and many countries and many businesses and many individuals are highlighting and drawing attention to the benefits of AI. And it was very important to determine whether or not Jamaica was ready for AI, to look at who is ready, who is not, how they're using AI, how much knowledge they have of AI, and also what are their fears and how we can address it.
We shouldn't take lightly what you have said. Everybody now is having this conversation about utilizing that tool. So businesses need to bring a new intelligence. It's not just about doing more with less. I think ultimately what we want is to do more for more with the technology.
Then no me face that. We never make no record that big, nobody no money.
That slap bro, we no need that.
A talk over a dumpling. Send this to everybody you know. For little people, it's a really big world.
With the remote, with the remote.
Hurry and change the channel quick.
I ain't that thing that.
I believe after seeing the layers of work that has been done in the different spaces, I think BCJ could get a much bigger round of applause than that, to be very honest with you. And if I may just state, my favorite campaign of BCJ was with the cat. I think that cat spoke to everyone across age group, across economic statuses. Everyone understood what the BCJ was all about. Now, going back to what the welcome remarks was done by the chairman, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. And we do know that when you have governance and compliance and regulation, you may not always be able to move as fast as others, but certainly when you understand that people are becoming the voice of trust, and when you realize what these people really intend on doing, it is horrific. And during Hurricane Melissa, I can tell you that as myself and other people were using our large platforms to help families find families, there were people who were creating WhatsApp groups and charging people to find their families. And so when you hear Mr. Green say that in times of disaster, it is even more important for the media entities to be there before, to be there during, and to be there after. Thank you so very much, not only for our welcoming remarks from the chairman, but for that beautiful video that showed all of what the BCJ does. So we move to our very first presentation, and we could not have found a better person. A formidable force in Caribbean media, academia, cultural advocacy, someone who champions regional integration, digital literacy, and transformative communication. The title of the presentation, Trust on Life Support, where we reflect on the evolution of regulation, digital disruption, and the next decade in content and media technology and trusted media. Our presenter for our opening session is the one and the only Dr. the Honorable Alison Leacock, OR, Chairman, Barbados Broadcasting Authority. Please make her welcome.
Fabulous master of ceremonies, right? She set the tone. So, good morning to her, to the chairman, the executive director, and the commissioners, and the staff of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. Thank you for inviting me to this really special occasion, to the president of the ATSC, and to all of you as honored colleagues from across our Caribbean media family. All distinguished guests, all, good morning. 40 years is a long time to keep a promise. So let me begin by congratulating the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, not only on reaching this milestone, but on what it has spent 4 decades protecting. Because underneath every license you issued, every standard you enforced, every signal you kept honest, there was one quiet, fragile, priceless thing: trust. And I have come to Kingston, gladly, this morning, to tell you that trust is in intensive care. Around the world, just 40% of people say they trust the news. That figure has not moved in 3 years. It is not a dip, it's a flat line. And more than half of us, 58% globally, now say we're not even sure what is real and what is fake online. Hold that picture. A monitor at the bedside, and the line has gone flat. That is the patient we've gathered to attend. And whether that line stays flat or whether it becomes something that is moving back to a heartbeat, whether it climbs back into a heartbeat, depends a great deal on the people sitting in this room. Trust was the original product. For 40 years, this commission did something quietly radical. It made a signal trustworthy by default. In an age before the algorithm, a license meant accountability. A frequency meant a face you could name and a newsroom you could hold to account. When a Jamaican switched on the radio or the television, they weren't asking, is this real? They assumed it was. That assumption was the achievement. And it was never Jamaica alone. Our region built this together. I see some familiar faces from the CBU in the room. The Caribbean Broadcasting Union that was founded in 1970, headquartered in my own Barbados, has reached across more than 15 countries and millions of people in the Dutch, French, Spanish, and English Caribbean, weaving a single broadcast conversation out of scattered islands. That's the inheritance we are here to honor. A public square that for a generation you could believe in. Then came transformation. The audience left the building. The room where trust was decided has emptied. Our audiences didn't so much as abandon us, but really they drifted to where the current carried them, as the chairman mentioned, TikTok over television, influencers over newsrooms, chatbots over the search bar. Institutional journalism no longer owns the public square. It rents a corner of someone else's feed, governed by an algorithm it does not control and it cannot see. Cordell Green has named this danger for years, and he was right. Caribbean media now compete with global technology firms that are largely untaxed, that have no physical presence on our shores, that carry no obligation to tell a single Caribbean story. So there's no media pluralism. And they quietly capture our advertising as they go. The Media Institute of the Caribbean estimates that between 15 and 25% of regional advertising revenue is already diverted to platforms like Meta and Google. The playing field did not merely tilt. For small markets like ours, it began to disappear. And into that vacuum rushed something new. A couple of years ago, getting ahead of myself here, a couple of years ago, a single social media post claimed a COVID vaccine had caused a man in Trinidad to fall ill before his wedding. It was traced to no medical source. And yet, it traveled further and faster and lodged deeper in Caribbean households than any health ministry briefing that followed. We learned painfully that in our region, a rumor can outrun the truth before the truth has found its sandals. Last year, a fabricated press release dressed in official language announced that the Bahamas was withdrawing from CARICOM. It was a forgery, but it was plausible enough to raise eyebrows across the region, and credible voices warned that it may have been part of a deliberate campaign by external forces to corrode confidence in our institutions and in our unity. We should always be mindful of that. That is why, at the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting right here in Jamaica last July, my Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, named the spread of fake news supercharged by the misuse of artificial intelligence as nothing less than a threat to the very survival of our democracies. When a chair of CARICOM calls disinformation an existential risk, we're no longer discussing a communications problem. We're discussing a sovereignty problem. And then there's what's coming next, the agentic term. And here is what keeps me awake. We have lived through the era of artificial intelligence that answers. We're now entering the era of artificial intelligence that acts, what the world is calling agentic AI. So soon, a citizen isn't going to scroll a feed. Their AI assistant will read, rank, and decide for them, as the chairman's AI assistant does now, which news ever reaches our eyes. The agent becomes the audience. We'll no longer be courting viewers, we'll be courting the machines that gatekeep them. And an algorithm cannot be charmed by a logo or a familiar anchor's smile. It checks for proof. No proof, no credibility. Meanwhile, the cost of a convincing lie has collapsed to minutes of compute. Tracked deepfake incidents worldwide have leapt from roughly 500,000 in 2023 to 8 million in 2025. That is a 9-fold increase in just 2 years. Industry shifts are taking place. Deepfake fraud attempts hit identity verification systems at a rate of 1 every 5 minutes globally. Public figures now abuse the liar's dividend by claiming authentic investigative footage or recordings are simply AI-generated deepfakes to escape accountability. Analysts are now projecting that as much as 90% of online content could be synthetically generated. So picture it close to home. A cloned voice of a prime minister announcing an evacuation that is not happening in the middle of hurricane season, on islands where a false alarm costs lives. That's not science fiction. That is next year's newsroom emergency. So, what is our influence? Our influence has to be, and I want to suggest this, that the job of a Caribbean broadcasting regulator in this decade is no longer to be the censor of content. It is to become the guarantor of authenticity, the institution that can prove what is real. The good news is that the instrument already exists. Content credentials, which is the open standard that was built by Adobe, the BBC, Microsoft, and Intel, and now backed by more than 6,000 organizations, including Google, OpenAI, Meta, and Sony, attach a tamper-evident, cryptographically signed record to a piece of media at the very moment it is made. Who created it, when, with what tools, and whether AI was involved. It's a birth certificate for the truth. The principle is simple, but profound. We need to stop chasing the fakes after the fact and start proving the real at the source. This signing is already shipping inside ordinary cameras and smartphones. And from August of this year, the European Union will require AI-generated content to be machine readable. The standard is arriving whether we plan for it or not. The only question, and I throw it out to all of us, is whether the Caribbean shapes it or simply inherits it. I say we have a chance to shape it. Imagine a regional standard of provenance for our public broadcasters. Caribbean content that is verifiable by default anywhere in the world. Imagine the CBU and our national authorities agreeing that a story carrying our credential can be trusted on site in Kingston, in Bridgetown, in Paramaribo, in the diaspora, in a living room in Brooklyn or Brixton. That is not a defensive crouch, that is an export. Trust made in the Caribbean. And let me leave the media in particular with the most encouraging vital sign of all. When people want to check whether something online is true, the first place they still go is a trusted news brand. Only about 9% turn to an AI chatbot to verify if something is a fact. The overwhelming majority still expect news made by humans to be more trustworthy than news made by machines. Do you understand what that means for our journalists and for all of us in this room? As synthetic content floods every feed, verified human judgment becomes the scarce and precious thing. The byline is becoming a mark of authenticity. The local reporter who knows the community, who can be held to account, who puts a name and a face to the work, that is not the legacy cost of the old model. That is the premium product of the new one. So how does this region restart a heart? I leave you with a diagnosis and no prescription. I can't do that, so I want to leave you with 4 things. First, adopt provenance by default. Make content credentials the standard for every public broadcaster and licensee, so Caribbean media is verifiable at source. Second, regulate the agent, not the airwave. Extend our public interest mandate to the recommender systems and the AI intermediaries that now decide what our citizens see. Third, invest in human premium. Fund local, investigative, human journalism and the media literacy of our young people as critical national infrastructure. Because in a region this vulnerable to disaster and to disinformation, it is exactly that. Fourth, lead as trust brokers. Let this commission and this region be the certifier of authenticity that bridges the divide rather than censor and polices it. Trust isn't dead. It is on life support, and we are the ones holding the paddles. Legacy gave us the trust. Transformation took the room. Influence is what we choose to do next by making the rail provable, the human valuable, and the Caribbean signal once again worthy of belief. 40 years ago, this commission made a promise that the signal could be trusted. Our task, Jamaica's, Barbados's, and the whole region's, is to make sure that for the next 40 years, it still can. Because, as Barbados's leading spoken word artist likes to say, Adrian Green, you're never too good to get better, nor too bad neither. Happy 40th anniversary, BCJ, and God bless our Caribbean.
Thank you so very much. So many nuggets, so many parts of her conversation and presentation that made us stop and think. Many of us might be working in the industry, so some stats might be familiar to us, but to really understand what the bigger picture looks like really forces us to ask ourselves, what's next? This is the reality, but how can we fix it? In fact, the Prime Minister, I know, would have loved to even hear these sessions, and he was in fact slated to speak on the program. However, he was called away on business abroad, but certainly I know that he will get the information, he will see the videos of what was discussed here. But thank you so very much. If I might though, it feels like it's a lot of responsibility to put on just media alone. I think households have a responsibility. I think we as citizens have a responsibility. And certainly we hope that even us in our households, we're telling our children and our mothers and our fathers to also confirm information before they share it. So this is something that we will all have to do, not just the media, but also citizens being held accountable also for mischief making. But thank you so very much for that. We appreciate your presence and your time. Now, our speaker, Dr. the Honorable Alison Leacock, ended her presentation with words from a spoken word. And here with us this morning, we have one of Jamaica's most prominent and respected contemporary dub poets, authors, and cultural advocates. He is an edutainer, taking social commentary and presenting it either in roots, rock, reggae, or even sometimes dancehall. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Yasso Safari in spoken word. Please make him welcome.
Grand rising. Good morning. You prefer that? What do you prefer? Grand rising? Grand rising? How are you doing? You look clean and bossy and nice. I love that. But we're here on the job. Now, when we're operating in a space whereby we are told that you either work in the box or outside of the box, except that we know that that is a lie. There is no box. And so we need public awareness to set the proper social and political architecture and set the proper tone where we can make informed choices and decisions that are socially responsible, where we can sacrifice the personal, individual impulses for the interests of the group, for nation building and for the building of consensus through community consultation, so that we can have a mandate around which we can galvanize both in our families, in our communities, in our country, and in the international community. So I'm going to share a few poems speaking to these issues, and we don't want to con or scam the thing. So we want to congratulate the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica on 40 years and still going strong. Let's hear it for them. Now, if the haunted ever tell the story of the haunter, and if the haunter ever tell the story of the haunted, then the haunted will be robbed of its honor and glory. So I and I have to cultivate and create our own narrative, tell our own story, preserve our dignity and integrity, and chart and create our own destiny. Now at the College of Art, Science and Technology, I mix and match Rastafari philosophy with dub poetry, only for disappoint my friends and family. And same time, my girlfriend Twiggy left me. Twiggy left you? Twiggy left me. So the summer holiday, we go home at St. Bess. I dig out my hand miggle. I skeng in a me wallaby. Me gun for choices, bokas and tam. Bokas and tam, bokas and. So the neighbor them start say, but look, pan sister, they're a good boy doing. I wonder if people will be upon him. So when we walk up to Mama, they say the same thing. But look, pan me good picking the boy doing. I wonder if I study race and turn him in an idiot. Tony, I can't cut off your locks and go look work. Really and truly, what you plan to do with yourself? I say, Mama, I plan to live off a dub poetry. Mama look at me and say, boy, you ever hear say poetry can't yam? Poetry can't yam. Poetry can't yam. I say, yes, Mama. I go show you say poetry can't yam. P, like papaya, pineapple and pumpkin, because you grow me as a real old country bumpkin. O for orange. E for eggplant, which you call garden egg. T for tomatoes, tomato and tamarind. R for radish, rose apple and raspberry. Y for yam, like yellow yam, Vincent and Mozilla. Same time my cousin ball out, and pum pum yam. In a me gun fruit. Chooses Bokazan. So mama, if you get downhearted, it's all right, don't worry. I and I still love you. So mama say, I and I. So wait, a two and what no? In a me gun food. Chooses Bokazan. Tam. Poitrika. Nyam. Thank you. Now, am I allowed to ruffle some feathers? Oh, no, not sure. No, democracy is a reasonable ideal. However, it can be circumvented to support unilateralism while we're seeking multilateral solutions. So we have to be careful. And that is why the work of the BCJ is critically important, to take the proper tone, the proper texture as to how we disseminate information, how we create our social architecture for nation building. And so I'm going to speak to the subject of the democratic process briefly. So Johnny Nash, Jimmy Cliff and Garnet Silk say, I can see clearly. But even Uncle Stevie wonder how this pants and shirt world moves so blouse and skirt crazy. Armed, mad and giddy in a disya Amagidian. Them say, I read, but them not ready. I word sound is power. Right from Jamaica, straight to Saudi Arabia, the Mecca for the petrodollar, where the blood of Isla boil and the money get too bloody, the greed gets so thick that them think them slick, while corruption a dance upon them face, caress them cheek, and kiss off all them bloody lip in a democratic dictatorship. Neuro-linguistic programming, psychological conditioning, geopolitical profiling, false menu them serving. I know them not pay for them food, yet them a tip. Them never hop, yet them hip. Blood money at the tip of the whip, and the devil is the captain of them sinking ship in a democratic dictatorship. Bloody police, gangsters, and soldiers disturbing the peace with the mark of the beast. And the bloody soldier never know ya. So them think say them soldier. So them sell them soul for silver and gold and blood money. And if them could, them would because them think them soldier. Servants and slaves of Bakramasa. Them armed to them teeth, but them still not ready. And as the pendulum swing, watch it on social media. Tick, tock, goes the clock. And up to the lip, the cup slip, and it's pure blood a drip. And the people them a ball, and the picnic them a call, and the poor blood a drip. Drip, 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 drip. In this blood-sucking democratic dictatorship. The views expressed by Yasser Safari are not necessarily those of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. Let that be abundantly clear. Now, we promote social responsibility and creativity in nation building, not just artistic creativity, but creativity in every aspect and facet of our national life. And so this poem, speaking to the 40th year of the existence of the Broadcasting Commission, with a very challenging and demanding work, and I think they have been doing a brilliant job. So this is a commission poem in salute to BCJ 40th anniversary. Broadcasting Commission of JA, 40 years and counting. Regulating, moderating the media-centric architecture of Jamaica. Out of one, we are many. one vocal light burn down the turn down evil plantation. African Caribbean redemption. Solar spark igniting, arresting the dark. Digital aesthetics, ordering, nurturing the audiovisual twin, inculcating attitudinal rhythm. Communication is a social breath of our beloved nation. Set my people free. Audiovisually cultivating, sowing conscious seed thoughts. Social responsibility, individually and collectively, is our social duty. Think and make it happen. In search to research thoughts into reality. Now is the time, so the time is now. Giving and forgiving, thought seeds impregnating our reality. Unification is the key to liberate, ignite, and elevate our mental state, orchestrating information, enlightening, bringing visions into reality. Monday to Sunday, working B from A to Z, melanated mind is an open book. I see clearly what you are saying, so let it be. Solar word soul is power. So here we are, eyewitnessing our ever-living reality. Onwards and upwards, forward ever, backward never, 40 years and still counting. Eyes telling, lips speaking of Jamaica, broadcast and commission, BCJ and a mission. And right now, it's 40 years and counting. Media's medium of developmental momentum. All on board, our true prosperity loading. I and I come forward, advancing to advance all humanity. Come, unity is the key, oneness into unity, as we eyes them unlock doors and portals of what was, is, and is to be. 40 years and counting. Salute, BCJ, 40 years and still counting. Thank you. Cardell, could you come forward, or someone have a gift for you? Lovely lady, you want to take it on his behalf? No, make him do it for himself.
Could we get another round of applause for Yasser Safari, who made it very clear that his views are not the views of the BCJ.
So we're not giving you push in a bag. This is what you're getting inside the bag.
Yes, sir.
And can you have this on me, please? And thank you very much for the wonderful work. Keep it up. I hope to see you at the 80th anniversary. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the inimitable Yassos Afari, Afari, Afari.
BCJ, 40 years and
counting.
BCJ, 40 years and
counting.
BCJ, 40 years and
counting.
Lovely lady.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Let us hear it one more time for Yassos Afari. You know, while he was delivering, it's funny when he said, you know, I can tell you the things without ruffling the feathers. I said, as long as it is within the parameters of the BCJ. But hearing him speak is a reminder of what it is we protect, which is your democratic integrity, that we are able to express ourselves, that we're able to share social commentary, the good, the bad, and the ugly, in a manner that is creative, a manner that is understandable, but it's also in a manner that is done in a way that everybody can hear it and be respected by it. Thank you so very much, Yassos Afari. 40 years and counting, counting, counting. So in 40 more years, because Yassos Afari said he's going to come back for the 80th, that would make Cordell Green. All right. So we just had the printed poem handover by Yassos Afari and Cordell Green. And at this time, I'd just like to get a few photo ops if it isn't a problem. I'd like to welcome Professor Lloyd Waller and Dr. Alison Leacock. for some photos. And we also want to thank our sponsors, Silver Spectrum Management Authority and Bronze Itinerary by Affinity. Thank you so very much for the support. Before we jump into our other sessions, we want to try to get these photo ops before we get into our speaker presentations, as well as panelists. I did not get a chance to say how fabulous you also look, the Honorable. So this is our chairman and Dr. Alison Leacock. Go right from center. And look straight ahead for our photographers. And then I'm going to invite Mr. Cordell Green to kindly join them on stage. The group is going to get larger and larger. So we now have the chairman, we have the executive director, we have Dr. Alison Leacock. Thank you so very much. I'm going to ask the professor to stay, the executive director Cordell to stay. Thank you so very much, Dr. Leacock. And I'm going to invite Miss Madeline Noland, ATSC president, to join us. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.